Hey guys, and welcome to another live tutorial and Q&A session. My name's Rory Davenport. I'm the lead graphic designer here at Graphic Designer Pro, and I'll be here to take any questions you have throughout this tutorial, whether it be related to what we're looking at, or if it's just a design related question. I'm happy to try and help you out. So that's what these sessions are all about. Today we are going to be looking at actions in Adobe Illustrator. So you may be familiar with actions already, you may not be. You may have used them in programs like Photoshop, so it's basically the exact same idea. These are a really good thing to get used to using, especially if you have lots of things that you do commonly in your design files. You can basically set up these actions and it's going to save the process of what you're doing into a single action essentially that you can hit play on, and it's going to carry out those actions automatically. So a big time saver, and one of the things that we're going to set up in this tutorial is something that I think everyone can get used to using because it's such a big part of designing in the software. So let's jump on to the computer now. Where are we? Let me just get set up. There we go. So we already have a design set up within here that we are going to basically play around with. So like anything in Illustrator, we can access the Actions panel by going up to Window, and then we've got all of our different panels and features within here. So if ever someone's showing you something like I'm doing here, if you're not sure of how to get that tool or feature up, your best bet is going to the Window menu in the top menu, and it's got basically everything within here already. So we've got actions sitting up at the top here, and we actually already have a few actions already set up. There's also some default actions that are already here provided by Adobe, by Illustrator. I'm not going to lie, I've never actually used any of these because I don't think any of them are that useful. You've got things like the Pathfinder options here, like Unite, but I don't know why you wouldn't just use your Pathfinder panel instead, so I'm not entirely sure why they include these. They've probably been in here for years, to be honest, and they've never bothered to update them or anything, but I could be wrong. But I've never used these default actions. We already have some set up for creating isometric designs. Now that's a completely different type of design altogether. We're not going to get into that in this video, but let me know if you would like to know more about isometric design, and we can do a dedicated video or live session on that. But yeah, no, we've got some. So basically, let's start from scratch. What is an action? Well, it's essentially a set of steps that you can take that's going to get recorded, and it means that you can basically apply that same set of steps to any design or any vector that you have in your document. So for example, let me just grab my rectangle tool. Let's kind of show this a little bit more clearly. So let's just grab out a square here. Let's just give this a color, and I'll show you this with our isometric actions that we already have set up first. So let's just create 3 squares, make these slightly smaller. So I'm going to select this first one. I've got these set up in what are called sets. So down at the bottom here, this works in a similar way to your layers panel. You've got a plus button for adding a new action. You've got a bin icon for deleting a selection or an action. And you've got this folder icon, and that's to create what's called a set. It's basically just a way of grouping actions together. So it's just basically a way of organizing them. You can also play a set, if that makes sense. So it's going to apply all of the actions that fall within that set to whatever you have selected. But I'm not going to lie, it's very rare that you would need to do that. So if I drop down this ISO Designs folder here, we actually have 3 actions set up within here. So we've got ISO left, ISO right, and ISO top. And we're going to create an action from scratch. Don't worry, I will show you that. If I drop ISO left down, for example, we actually have 3 more things within here. So each of these is a different action. So I've set this to create a certain scale, which the details are within there. Then I've told it to shear the object. Then I've told it to rotate the object by a certain amount. So these are all actions that I recorded that have now been saved into this single action. So I've got ISO left selected. I've got my square on the left hand side selected. All I need to do is go down to the play button down at the bottom of this panel, click that once, and it's essentially applying those 3 steps to create this new shape. So that's creating a left facing isometric square instead. We could do this with the ISO right option now. Just select that, click play, and voila. Same with ISO top, exact same thing. So each of these have been recorded separately, and I can apply this really to any design. So for example, we've got a selection here. Let's just create out copy a duplicate out here. Now this isn't going to work that well because we've got things like a stroke and effects applied, but if I was to click play on the ISO top option here, you can see it's still basically doing the same thing. It's applying those same set of steps to this selection. So you can see already that this is, you know, potentially a big time saver if you're wanting to apply the same kind of thing to a bunch of different objects within your artboard. This is the way to do it. So let's just delete that for now. So I'm just going to close them down for the time being. We're not going to go into that. I've got a GDP actions set already created, but what I'm actually going to do is just delete that for now. So let's just click that bin icon, click yes. I only had one action within there anyway. So let's click our folder icon down at the bottom. That's going to create our new set. So we'll just call this GDP actions again. Let's just create this from scratch. Click OK, and we have our new set created. Now, if I want to create a new action, I want to click on the plus button down at the bottom, and we're going to get another pop-up box, so we can name the actions whatever we want. And the one we're going to set up in this live tutorial is for expanding objects. So that's doing things like outlining your strokes and outlining text and expanding effects. So we can essentially create an action that's going to do all of that. And this is something that if you're used to using Illustrator, you'll probably find you've done so many times, constantly going up to object expand or expand appearance, and it gets really monotonous and there's quite a few clicks involved just to do something that you do all the time. So I don't know why there isn't already some sort of shortcut for this. If there is that I just don't know about, please do let me know, but as far as I'm aware there is not. So we're going to set up an action to do this instead. So let's just call this expand. And we could do each of them separately, so I'll explain this in a bit more detail as we go. So let's just call this expand. We can just select which set this action falls within. So you can see I've got my default actions, my ISO designs, and then our new set that we just created, GDP actions. So that's the one I want it to go into. What's really cool about these as well is that we can actually assign a function key keyboard shortcut to run these actions. So in this case, I'm just going to leave this, you know, as nothing for now, and then we will go back and we will show you that in more detail. So I'm just thinking what we could do with this one is actually, instead of expand, let's call this outline text. So I'm going to go ahead and click record now, and you can see that's been added into my actions panel over here, and this is basically in a recording state now. So you'll see down at the bottom of the panel there is a wee record button that's now grayed out. There's also a stop button, so that's to stop recording it basically, and anything we do to a selection now is going to be recorded. Now obviously I can click on something and that's not going to create an action out of just selecting something. So we have this grouped design here. If I was to simply just move this though, you can see all of a sudden we have this move attribute within our actions panel. So you need to be a bit careful about what steps you're taking, making sure that you're only taking the steps necessary for that action. If I was to press Command Z, it's going to move my object back up, but you can see nothing's changing within the actions panel. That move action is still there. So we can go back and adjust that afterwards, though don't worry, we can go and delete steps from our actions afterwards. So what I'm going to do in this case is simply just go up to type, and we want to create outlines, but because I've got this all grouped, it's not going to do that. So I would need to double click into this first, and actually I could just right click. Can I? Let's hope I can. Let's go to object instead and then just expand and make sure object and fill are checked, and that's going to basically outline our text. So there we go. I can go ahead and click stop now if I want to, and we have our outline text action created. Now, what I should have done is create a duplicate first. So I'm going to press Command Z. So we'll go back to our original design. You can see that's not affecting our actions at all. And let's create a few duplicates of this just in case we need them. So we have our expand action here, and we've still got our move action that we didn't want. So I can just click on that. It's highlighted, and click the bin icon, and that's just going to delete that step out of our action. So this is a very simple action, obviously set up. So if I was to now double click into here, select our type again, I could just click our outline text action. We don't need to drop this down. Click on the play button. It's still going to come up with this pop-up because we can't get rid of that. That's just a step involved in expanding something, but I can click OK, and there you go. So slightly easier than going up via object, but this is just really more of an example of what we can do. So I could set up these for each type of expanding. So we could set it to expand the appearance of a stroke. We could set it to expand an effect being applied, but really in this case, we just want one that does all of them in a oneer. So let's just delete that action for now. Click yes. And I'm actually just going to delete that first selection. So let's create a new action. Click the plus button down at the bottom, and we'll call this one expand. If I could spell, there we go. And this time we will set a function key. Now, you'll see this has to be one of the function keys, so one of your F keys up at the top of your keyboard. One thing to note is, depending what computer you're using, these may already be set up with other actions. So I think, for example, I can't remember which one it is, it might be F11 is set to move all of your windows away on a Mac, so that wouldn't work. So you may have to play around with this. I'm just going to set this to F1, and you do also have the option to set Shift and Command keys with that as well. So if one's already taken by default, you could set it to be Shift F11 for example, and that should work. So, but in this case, I think I can get away with just using F1, and that will work. So I'm going to go ahead and click record, and actually, let's create one more duplicate of this so we can show it with the keyboard shortcut as well. So we'll just select our first one up at the top here, and we're going to do the same thing basically with it all selected. Let's go up to Object, down to Expand Appearance, Object again, Expand, and click OK with all those boxes checked. So we're taking a few steps in this one, but that's making sure that absolutely everything is expanded. So let's just move my action panel off here. If I press Command Y, you can see this has all been basically converted into outlined text, outlined strokes, and the effects have been applied as well. So yeah, very useful. This is something we have to do a lot. And now I can simply press the stop button, and we have our action set up once more. So let's just test this. Let's grab our selection below, click the play button with expand selected. Again, we're going to get the expand pop-up once more, but if I just click OK, again, this should all be, oh, did I actually have it selected there? I don't know if I did. Let's click play once more, click OK. Oh, I'm not sure what I've done in this case. Maybe I need to go and expand the effect first. So let's try this again. Sorry, this wasn't meant to happen. Let's click play, click OK. Okay, so there's something weird going on with the type. I'm not entirely sure what is happening there. Has that definitely recorded? Let's try this again. I'm sorry for the technical issue here. This is not meant to happen. Let's create a new action once more. We'll call this expand, and GDP actions, F1 for the function key, click record. So we should be all good to go. So let's try this once more. We've got all of this selected. Oh, I don't want the move. Maybe that was my problem. So we'll just go and remove that afterwards. So with our selection here, let's go to Object, Expand Appearance, make sure it's all definitely still selected. Okay, so I see what's been happening. Right, let's press Command Z a few times. That's my bad. Let's go back to what we basically started with. So we've got our three groupings of content here, and I realize I'm still recording here, so let's just go and delete all of these out of my action for now. Delete the selection, yes. I'm going to select expand, and we'll click record again. So this is one thing to note as well, is that we can always go back and record more steps if we want to. We can go and edit the action as much as we want to after having created it. So we have it selected here. I'm going to click record. Let's select our top option again, go to object, expand appearance. With it all still selected, let's just make sure it all still is selected. Object, expand. Make sure all of these are checked as well. We want it all to be expanded, whether it's a fill or a stroke, because it depends what you're going to be expanding as well. It's not always going to be the same type of design or design elements. Click OK, and that's all good. We can check this by going to our outline view. That has been outlined. So we can click the stop button now, and that's our expand action, hopefully set up properly this time. So let's select our next one now, click play, we get our pop-up here. If I click OK, this is working, although now we've got an issue with the stroke. So it could, I've probably set up something wrong here, but you're hopefully getting the idea. Now, if I was to select this next one, just to quickly show you, I can use my F1 keyboard shortcut. That's going to automatically start the action, and I can click OK, and that's now working. So I think for some reason it's not recorded the expand appearance option at the beginning, which you need to do when you've got something like a dashed line. So that's just my user error there, but hopefully you've got a good understanding of how actions work and how they can be used. So you can do this for all sorts of things. Like I say, we've got this set up with our ISO designs to transform them slightly. I'm just trying to think if there's another example of what we could do here. So let's grab this group here instead, and we could create a new action to create a little bit of depth to this box, for example. So what I'll do first is just make sure that this is ungrouped. So I'm just going to ungroup both of these like so. Let's just delete those little marks there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is apply basically a black extrusion to these rectangles. So let's create a new action. Click on that plus button, and we'll call this extrude. And let's give this a function key as well. We'll try F2. I'm not sure if that's taken by something. We'll just try it by default for now, and click record. So what I'm going to do first is right click, then we're going to go to transform, and then transform again. Oh no, that's not what I want. Having an absolute mare today, guys, sorry. Let's go to effect, distort and transform, and then transform. Okay, so this is what I was after. So I'm going to change the horizontal and vertical values here by just 0.5 pixels. That's all we need, and we're just going to up the number of copies. So this is a useful way to basically creating a bunch of duplicates at the amount we tell it to offset it at, so the move values. So we're creating, in this case, we've got 70 copies moving 0.5 pixels horizontally and vertically each time. So it's just a little hack to create this kind of extruded look to the shape. I could click OK now, and that's been hopefully recorded. I'm not sure if it actually has for some reason, because we've just got this transform again. Let's try just stopping that. I need to delete that because that's not worked. Okay, I'm not sure what I've managed to do here. Made a right mess of this. Let's create a new a new action once again, shall we? Let's delete that. Copy this, and we'll try again. So new action, set within GDP actions. We're calling this extrude, and we'll give this the F2 shortcut. Click record. So that is definitely set up properly, and we want to apply an effect to it. Could be that effects don't actually work. I've not tested this out. So transform. Let's try just moving this 1 pixel instead, and we'll add a bunch of copies. Click OK. Yeah, no, I think it's that we can't apply effects that get recorded. So we would actually have to do this through our graphic styles. We do actually have a video on graphic styles in our live tutorial, 2 live tutorials ago, if that makes sense. So check that out if you want to know more about that. But that's something different altogether. But I'll probably wrap it up here, guys, because we've been going on for a bit now, but you've got a good idea of how this is working. It's more to do with how we move and sort of skew elements. We can also use it for saving as well. So if you want to set up an action for, say, saving a bunch of logos to PNGs, you can do it with that as well. And I believe in default actions, there are a few. Yeah, we've got save for web GIF, save for web JPEG, medium. So it's not just for making actions within your artboard, you can actually do it for exporting as well. But yeah, hopefully that's given you a good idea of, you know, how this feature works in Illustrator. It can be very useful, like I say, for expanding strokes and things. I always use this instead of having to go up to Object and expand every time. It's just a few clicks, but it makes such a difference in the course of a full design project. So definitely get used to using it. If you guys want to further your design skills as well, remember that we run a full graphic design course and community. We've got tons of members now, and it's a great place to kind of learn and get into the business of being a freelance graphic designer. If you're not quite sure about that, we also have a free training. I will put a link in the comments for this as well if you want to check that out. But a free training where we cover 5 secrets to creating more professional designs. So definitely check that out if you're interested. But until next week, we'll be posting what we'll be covering in next week's session as well. So keep an eye on the YouTube channel for that. But yeah, I think that will do it for this one, guys. All right, I'll see you next week.